Welcome back to this. Already the final segment of today's Price of Business. Always delighted to talk to Rex Solomon. He's a regular contributor on the Price of Business. His company's called HoustonJewelry.com. And by the way, you know what happens this weekend? It's called Valentine's Day. Very important. You need to go by there, check out what they are offering over there for that special someone in your life. Make sure you make that special someone feel special. And, and I'm going to have him mention a little more about what they do. But we don't get him on just to talk about what's happening at Houston Jewelry. I consider him extremely savvy on what's happening on the geopolitical and the geoeconomic front, which is why we have him on as a regular on this program. Lots to talk about. You know, here it is. It's, Thursday, but just a few days ago, we had our primary in New Hampshire, which, I don't think there was that many surprises, but then again, there was. First of all, real quickly, tell us about what you do over there at Houston Jewelry and about the store, and then let's get into the politics of New Hampshire.
Well, we do everything at Houston Jewelry to have anything to do with jewelry, and, it's all about love in the jewelry business, so we try to keep people from getting into trouble on significant days. Ignore Valentine's Day at your own risk.
That's exactly right. My wife told me that once before, so I know how that's true.
Yes, we do everything. We have items in every single price range. We make custom jewelry, and we're also one of the largest buyers of precious metals and gemstones and fine watches in the state.
Very good.
We have a lot of people selling right now.
Tell us about what your thoughts were. I'm sure you were watching, like, I won't say everybody else. A lot of people had more sense than you and me. But I'm sure you were watching the results on the New Hampshire primaries. What did you think? What was your initial response?
I knew Bernie was going to take a huge lead. And I had a gut feeling that Trump was not going to play as well in New England as he has elsewhere. New Hampshire voters tend to be a little bit better informed than other places, and it's an active. I mean, they take it very seriously. So I was very pleased to see that that KTEK has broken into the upper level, and Bush is doing well.
Okay, so you're kind of betting on a more moderate voice, or even to use the expression, the wicked E word, in a more established voice.
Well, unfortunately, if you want to get anything done in Washington, you're going to have to know how to make the system work. And those that have done it in the past or have been up front in the front row when it's happened are much more likely to get it done than somebody who is not. And then when you have somebody who's not, you're left with the president who does everything by executive order, which just angers a good portion of the country and is probably not the correct way to do it. So we had a first-term senator last go-around who spent almost no time on the Senate floor, was campaigning for president the entire time, and look what we got.
Right.
We had a president in election 76 who was a governor and had no knowledge of how Washington works and couldn't work with his own party. And there was 4 years of stagflation. Now, of course, you can get somebody who doesn't know how Washington works, but is a good people person and will work with the other side, such as Ronald Reagan, 8 years of getting an agenda done with a Congress largely controlled by the other party.
Largely, yeah. Yeah, with the rare exception, the U.S. Senate would be in Republican hands in only a couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
in fact, it was a lot like Eisenhower in some respects.
Exactly. So you've got to look at the personalities. I personally like Cruz, and I think that he would probably make an excellent president because he does know how the system works. He does have some baggage because of some of the stands he's taken in order to make a point, but I think that's largely irrelevant. I would be pleased with Cruz, Kasich, or Bush as the nominee, because I think any one of them would bring something to the table that would be a very, very positive president.
Talk a little bit about New Hampshire itself. You know, I begin to wonder and question its relevance. The reality is that, for example, you mentioned Kasich. Kasich has nothing as far as a ground game. He spent almost all of his time in New Hampshire as a win or lose scenario. He has virtually nothing as far as a ground game throughout the South. Bernie Sanders has been largely rejected by blacks in the South. They don't even get him. It's an interesting scenario. Do you think the people that came out on top in New Hampshire are going to be on top at the end? What do you think?
New Hampshire is if you don't know the area and know what's going on there, you would think it's just this tiny little state, which is, backwoods people. It's a very, very, at least the southern part, a very cosmopolitan. It's almost a suburb of Boston.
It is a suburb of Boston. Yeah.
And because the real estate in Boston is just so incredibly high, but so you have a extremely well-educated population that has a history, a 300-year-old history of being involved in politics. I can't remember how many people are in the state legislature, but it's not. I think it's a couple hundred legislators, and for an area the size of Harris County, or at least between here and Huntsville, and people get involved in their government there. So it's very different than a lot of other parts of the country. And so you have a lot of people with advanced degrees living there who follow the news, and the politicians, the voter expects to meet the politicians and not just get a soundbite, to ask questions and to get answers. And not just, a rally here or there, but it's like every day. I was there last week, and in '88 I was up there during primary season, and it's very much one-on-one. And so the politicians who do well there have actually it's a vetting process. And they tend to do better nationally, but sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And sometimes the person who doesn't win there does better elsewhere. As Bernie goes, he's an animal of a completely different stripe. I like him. If you saw him on Saturday Night Live last week, it was hilarious. But there is a genuineness to him, where he is not about the trappings of power. He carries his own bags. And on some things, he is dead on right. And when you look at what this administration did to the banking industry 7 years ago and consolidated power into 4 major banks, which can do whatever they want, and the federal government, the Federal Reserve, is giving them free money every single day to finance this stuff. Yet, are the banks helping Main Street? No. It's impossible to get a business loan. And the banks go, well, we can't risk it. Well, what are you risking? It isn't your money. You're getting it free from the government. They lowered rates on transactions? Not at all. They charge now to deposit cash. And so they haven't lowered credit card rates. So there is a lot of anger across the board, not just on the on Main Street, and not just consumer anger at these massive financial institutions which have been allowed to just grow at the public expense.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's no question about it. By the way, your assessment of New Hampshire I thought was really good. I worked for Gordon Humphrey from New Hampshire, the U.S. Senator from New Hampshire, back in the 1980s. New Hampshire legislature, New Hampshire House of Representatives has almost as many seats as the U.S. House of Representatives. They have 400 seats, 435 in the U.S. House. New Hampshire legislature, which New Hampshire is a tiny state. Almost everyone serves in the New Hampshire legislature at some point of their life.
My father's college roommate was a rep for a while.
Yeah,
and, that's what just amazed me about that. It is really active. They take it seriously to be involved in the government. I didn't realize that you'd worked for Gordon.
Yeah, Gordon was a great senator, phenomenal guy. 400 versus 435 in the U.S. House, so it's kind of funny. 24 in the Senate, which, by the way, is almost as big as the Texas Senate. So
exactly,
it's incredible how well represented, if you will, the legislature is. Let's talk just for a minute, though, because we only have a couple of minutes left. You've got this possibility of a Bernie Sanders getting the nomination. I think is very slim, but it's a possibility. You've got a Trump possibility of getting the nomination again. Reality thinks that something else will check in, especially in the South. But if that happens, this seems like it's very possible. I'm sorry, Trump not getting the nomination, because I think it gets harder in the South. But it seems like to me, if a Ted Cruz got the nomination, Trump would probably run independent. If Bernie Sanders got the nomination, Bloomburg would run independent. It could be a pretty crazy new November.
And if Bernie gets the nomination, well, first of all, he's got the whole superdelegates, which you don't know what they're going to do. So the superdelegates might go and say, hey, you know what? We need to go 68 up here. Biden, you're up. And then pull Biden in as a nominee. And you're seeing little bits of hints about that, because they're like, we're not going to let Hillary. Hillary's going to lose. We're not going to let Bernie do it. And then who knows?
Interesting.
Then the Electoral College really comes into play, because you have the situation where right now, if you look at the map, you've got the solid blue states, the solid red states, and those are in presumption that they're going to vote straight party ticket. Well, if you split it all up, now then you're going to have a 50-state campaign.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because during a regular campaign, you've got candidates who just are on TV and email, and they're just spending their time in just 2 or 3 states. Yep.
Our guest today, Rex Solomon, HoustonJewelry.com. But he's a really savvy political guy, which is why we like to talk about these things. Coming soon, we got your South Carolina primaries. After that, you've got Super Tuesday. Lots coming up to talk about. I look forward to that.
Yes, Valentine's Day. Don't forget Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, last pitch for Valentine's Day at Houston Jewelry. Give us something real quick before we let you go.
Diamond studs are the go-to gift. You can never go wrong with them. Diamond heart pendants, gotta have those. We've got silver jewelry. If you really don't want to do diamonds this year, which we completely understand, so every single price range.
Got to check it out, HoustonJewelry.com. Yeah, make sure you check it out right there on Westheimer. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, we're going to have much more for you on tomorrow's program. Do want to remind you, though, that the show continues 24/7 at priceofbusiness.com, and the best content here, including this interview, can be found over there at usdailyreview.com. Have a great day. Spend it wisely right here on this station.